I call the member for Ngadjuri.
Madam Speaker, I rise today with a deep sense of gratitude and humility as I deliver my maiden speech. I stand here today before you as the first ever member for the electorate of Ngadjuri and also as the first ever lower house member for One Nation. I begin by congratulating yourself on your role, and I thank you for this opportunity to stand here today and present to the Chamber my maiden speech. I congratulate the Premier and his team on their re-election, and all members of this House, both new and returning, who carry the privilege and responsibility of representing their communities. I do start with an apology. When I speak, Madam Speaker, it's been known to bring fear to both mayors and CEOs. As I sometimes can venture off script, I promise it is not my intention to do so today. I will start with a bit I just scribbled out down the bottom. A journey to this moment. Many of you may ask, how did I come to stand here today? You will not hear mentions of unions, walking the halls of university, or working as a staffer for a Member of Parliament. The truth is, this has not been a straight road. It has been a journey shaped by experience, setbacks, resilience, and ultimately purpose. And today is as much about the journey as it is about the destination. As I begin my journey in Parliament, at the forefront of lessons I have learnt that I wish to bring with me is respect. Respect is earned and not given. My politics is guided by life experience. I am the great-grandson of immigrants who came to Australia, contributed to their community and made Australia stronger. My politics on small business and local government also come from experience in both. But my story doesn't begin with politics, it begins generations ago. It begins with a young Scotsman in the early 1800s who dedicated his life to the service of the Crown and left his home in search of something more. His journey took him across the world to Gibraltar, Bermuda, England, Mauritius, the Seychelles, and eventually to Melbourne in 1870. Then there is the story of a young, single Catholic Irish girl in 1947 who found herself pregnant. The only option was to give birth to that child and to have the Catholic Church then adopt that child out. Imagine this situation in 2026. We could only guess the possible different decision. That child was my mother. Let that sink in. From there, generations of my family built a life defined not on privilege but on resilience. One of these most remarkable stories is that of my great-grandmother, a businesswoman in the early 1900s. At a time when women rarely held such positions, she owned and ran a laundromat in Collingwood. It also serviced the Victorian Parliament and also the Collingwood Football Club. So my life has been filled with stories of the early politicians that shaped Victoria and legendary Collingwood families like the Coventrys, the Richards, the Rose and the Collier brothers. That alone tells you something about the kind of determination that runs in my family. But alongside these life experiences were stories of hardship, the Great Depression and its effect on family life, being stationed in Egypt only days before being shipped to Gallipoli, migration and making a life in early Australia, connections to Ned Kelly, running the streets of Fitzroy with Squizzy Taylor. My grandfather consistently going AWOL to go and see my grandmother. What I remember the most from these stories is simple. We were never told stories of entitlement. We were told stories of overcoming, of making sure that while you may not always have what you want, you always have what you need. These values shaped me and they still guide me today. I was born in 1970 and raised in a time in many ways was uncomplicated. You worked hard, then you got the results, and character was the number one thing you were judged on. I was educated at St Leonard's Primary School and Mazenod College. Those 13 years in the Catholic education system helped shape my sense of responsibility, community, and accountability. I thank Adrian Williams, my politics teacher and friend. Who would have known that just maybe I was listening in class? I thank all my teachers who also taught me valuable lessons in consequences and the results of effort. I have fond memories of endless days at cricket, baseball, Aussie rules, netball, squash and basketball. Some of these memories are cherished in my pursuit to compete at an elite level. Others merely for fun and mateship, but always driven by a desire to win. The memory I cherish the most is that every single day of my pursuits had both the company and support of my dad. I thank him for being who he is and hope today that I make him proud in my own endeavour to be the best father I can. Unlike many of my peers, I didn't go to university. Instead, I entered the workforce. I started in the public service, later working with what became Melbourne Water. Then I moved into retail, starting at ground level and working my way up to store manager and eventually into a national role training and supporting staff. I also spent years in hospitality, but there was always a common thread. Start at the bottom, work hard, and the results would come. This is so true. Like many Australians, my education did not come from lecture halls, it came from life. From showing up every day, from learning through failure, from earning every step forward. Eventually, my wife, Kylie, and I took a leap of faith and went into business for ourselves. With only the skills I had being hard work and having a go, we looked for anything that relied just on that. One proud achievement of this is having staff that have now worked for us for over 15 years. For over 20 years, we have been self-employed. And let me tell you, there is no better teacher than small business. Because small business teaches you everything. What it means to carry risk when every wasted dollar is one less dollar to put food on the table. What it means to employ people and support families. A very humbling lesson of small business is when you prioritise the well-being of your staff over your own. What it means to lie awake at night worrying about rising costs, insurance, fuel and compliance. But it also teaches you something else. It teaches you the satisfaction of knowing what you put in is what you get out. That sense of ownership, of responsibility, of direct impact has shaped the way I see my community and the people I now represent. These experiences have also given me real-life experience that connects with my community. The moment that changed everything. Up until now, there's been a simple part of my story. What came next changed everything. In 2003, I married my wife, Kylie. We met in January 2002 while I was training new staff at a Rebel sports store, and Kylie and her sister came in to buy rollerblades. Like any professional salesperson would, two young females was too hard to resist. Well, an offer for a lesson eventually led to a hiking trip 6 months later where I proposed at sunset, and that set the next 23 years into motion. A lesson out there for anybody wanting to make future proposals: men, don't pop the question on one knee when there is no phone reception. It is not a smart move. We married in January 2003 at the HMAS Cerberus Naval Base, and then had our reception on the Georgiana McAfee, a renovated 1961 Japanese ferry. I would like to say that the fireworks were my doing, but I must actually thank the local school fete. 2003 also saw the birth of my daughter Caitlin, and in 2008, my son Joshua. Like any husband wanting to impress, I promised Kylie a European honeymoon in July. Why July, you ask? Because that's when the Tour de France is, of course. So where to for our January honeymoon? Adelaide, of course. Why? The tour out down under, of course. Are you starting to see a pattern here? For 23 years, the tour down under became part of our lives. But in 2013, during one of these visits, everything changed in a single moment. I was cycling on Botanic Drive when I was hit from behind by a vehicle and thrown into the wall. A doctor at the scene later said he went to his car to get a blanket. Not to keep me warm, but to prepare to cover a dead body. I survived with a permanent disability that will affect everything I would do from that day on, but that wasn't the real injury. Survival came at a cost, the beginning of anxiety and PTSD. In my experience, anxiety and PTSD are the lesser of mental illnesses. I was able to realise the triggers, find coping mechanisms, and with time overcome the sometime deliberating symptoms. The entire time, being on the bike for me was my safe space. And then, just as this began to stabilise, it happened again. On March the 21st, 2016, while out riding, I collided with a kangaroo and was thrown into oncoming traffic. Getting hit by a four-wheel drive head-on at 80 kilometres an hour and then laying under the wheel for 50 minutes is still clear in my mind. That day I should not be here. One surgeon rated my injuries 9 out of 10, 10 being death. From spinal injuries, head trauma, broken bones, and all the internal injuries, it would have been easy to just give up, but that's not me. I learnt to walk again after being told I may not, and I got back on the bike, despite that being considered impossible. I thank all the doctors, nurses, physios, and my OT at both the Alfred Hospital and Epworth Hospitals. I thank all those who visited and kept me company. Thanks to Pete for the nightly cheeseburger and Tanya for the regular Krispy Kreme donut. My surgeon said if that accident happened 100 times, I would only survive once. He also said if I was taken to another hospital, I probably would have died. Many may consider this arrogance, but he was right. I was lucky to have the best treatment. 2 weeks in ICU, with the family receiving a daily update that I had not died overnight, only strengthened the faith of my family. My wife believes there is an angel in heaven missing its wings, something that at the age of 50 I had tattooed on my arm. 18 weeks in hospital, multiple surgeries, a long road back. I have memories of my first steps, memories of needing help to wash and even go to the toilet. A life of not being in charge was new to me, and this led to my real injury. And something harder to explain: depression. Not why did this happen to me, but why did I live? For years that question has stayed with me. Why? Why was I saved? Not out of gratitude, but out of confusion. Until one day, 10 years later, on March the 21st, 2026, Election Day, I finally understood. My why wasn't about survival, it was about purpose. It may surprise many of you that our move to Adelaide was actually driven by my daughter's opportunity to cycle at Sassy. Yet cycling that had such an impact on our lives was going to once more. Before this place, I served on local council, including time as Deputy Mayor. That experience grounded me in what matters most to people, real problems. And I saw something that troubled me deeply. Urban growth expanding rapidly into communities like mine without the infrastructure to support it, and both the waste and over-governing of residents' every move. Let me paint a picture of my community. Some families cannot run the shower and dishwasher at the same time. Water pressure sometimes isn't enough for the sprinkler heads to pop up. Wastewater is managed locally in ways that many of this chamber would never experience. People have to travel hours for essential medical treatment. Public transport simply doesn't exist. And yet, these are the very communities being asked to solve the housing crisis. This is not good enough. My communities deserve better. Not special treatment, just fair treatment. The people I represent are not asking for the world. They are asking for what generations before them expected: fairness, accountability, opportunity, and respect. They believe in reward for effort, consequences for decisions, a fair go for everyone, and most importantly, they want to be heard. So I make this promise to the growth communities of Two Wells, Roseworthy, Hewitt and Freeling, to the farmers of Kapunda and Yadunda, to the towns of Point Pass, Saddleworth and Riverton, from Clare and the surrounding communities all the way across to Mallala, Dublin and the coastal communities. I will represent all of you. Listen to your needs and wants and fight for what you deserve. These very communities were the very foundation of early South Australia and have been forgotten. I entered this campaign, it was very much a David versus Goliath contest. There were two sitting members who had established parties and resources that I didn't have. So I made a simple decision. I would just be myself. No scripts, no filters, no avoiding hard conversations. If someone asked me a question, they got an honest answer. What I discovered was something powerful. People aren't looking for perfection, they're looking for authenticity. I can say that walking those polling booths, conversations about politics in life were alive and well. But I can honestly say respects of differing opinions were always honoured, and I'm lucky enough to call what once may have been the enemy, now friends. Election night, everything came together. 10 years to the day since that life-changing moment. And for the first time in 10 years, the weight I had carried, the question of why, was lifted. Because now I knew I was here to serve. To those who place their trust in me, I make this commitment. I will not change who I am, I will not stop listening, and I will represent all of my community. And I will fight to ensure that regional communities receive the same attention, investment, and respect as metropolitan areas. I stand here because of many people. My family, who taught me resilience. My volunteers, who became family. My colleagues, who shared the journey. I congratulate Chantal, Robert, Jason, Rebecca, Carlos, and Corey for also being elected. I thank Senator Roberts, Senator Bell, and Senator Whitten for preparing the way. Barnaby Joyce, I thank you. Who would have thought that with 4 days' notice, we could put on an event and have 380 turn up? The Udunda community had no doubts. Senator Pauline Hanson, 30 years of consistency and commitment to the cause. The Australian people thank you, and I credit yourself with myself being here today. I thank you. To my parents, thank you for giving the freedom to try, fail, and try again. I hope I have made you proud and know that what I am today is because of what you did so many years ago. I hope it was worth it. Thanks to my aunt and uncle who have travelled here today from interstate. It means the world to me. To my children, you are my greatest pride. And it's every father's right to embarrass you whenever possible, so here it goes. Caitlin Rose, you will always be my princess popcorn. And know that you are the one who gave me the training to be the father I am today. Don't change who you are for anyone, and always stand up for what you believe in. Joshua David, my baby giraffe. My very own mini-me. I am proud of you and your resilience. You are gifted many talents, but haven't had the easy journey. So hang in there. Remember, everyone's journey is different. Bradley, every father's greatest worry is who is one day going to take their daughter from them. I am no longer worried. To my wife, Kylie, there is neither the time nor the words to share here today with what you mean to me. If this is the story of David and Goliath, then you are the rock. You are the reason I stand here today. You turn my dreams into reality, are the solid ground that our family stands on, and you are very forgiving and patient. Not that I believe I've ever been difficult or wrong. In closing, I often say that life is like riding a bike. There are 3 stages. The moments where you cruise and take it all in. The moments where you sprint towards something ahead. And the moments where you choose to attack. Right now, I am taking in this moment. But make no mistake, I am here to act. And I'm here to fight for the people I represent. If you are here to judge my silence of the previous 2 weeks as who I am, then I suggest you buckle up and prepare for the ride ahead. Thank you.